Do you love animals? I mean, really love animals? Not just the dogs and the cats, but all the wild ones too, like cheetahs, zebras, bears, Komodo dragons, and even all the beetles and bats. If you have a passion for all animals, then maybe you've considered a career in working with them. Well, today we're going to be meeting someone who's made working with wild animals her whole career. She's a zookeeper. Now, when you imagine being a zookeeper, you might think it's all snuggles and scritches, and well, there is that. But it's also a very demanding job that requires discipline, hard work, education, and training. So stay tuned as we discover what it really means to be a zookeeper. Today we're going to be learning all the ins and outs and ups and downs of choosing a career as a zookeeper. Let's meet today's guest, Christine McDonald, but everyone calls her Mac. She's a zookeeper at Roger Williams Park Zoo in Providence, Rhode Island. First, she'll tell us about some of the responsibilities a zookeeper has.
A zookeeper's role is basically to provide everything we can as far as what an animal needs. We feed them, we give medications if they need it, we clean up their areas, we train them for behaviors they might need, which helps to take care of them medically, and we try to provide enrichment, which is something that is stimulating and keeps their mind and body busy.
Let's see how Mac came to the decision to become a zookeeper and how she prepared for her career.
When I was young, I always really liked animals, but I didn't plan on being a zookeeper. When I took my first biology class, I knew that I would do something in that field, but I didn't know exactly what job. When I went to university, the school I went to was near a zoo, and I started working at the zoo part-time in the summer. Then I stayed on after I graduated, and I have been a zookeeper ever since, getting close to 30 years.
Most zoos will require their keepers to at least have a bachelor's degree, usually in some field of science. And psychology classes are also a big plus because taming animals is a big part of the job.
I took some classes on specific types of animals, things like herpetology, which is reptiles and amphibians, ornithology, which is birds, and I actually took ichthyology, which is about fish, and that was my focus in school. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in wildlife biology, and I have a master's degree in zoology.
Now let's see what kind of animals Mac gets to work with in her exhibit area, titled World of Adaptations.
Some of the animals in our area are tree kangaroos, tortoises, hornbills, which are large birds, and we also have a Komodo dragon.
Mac also gets to work with river otters, binturong, babirusa, gibbons, and king vultures. But of course, she's got one favorite kind of animal she gets to work with, and it's a type of animal that you might not have ever heard of before.
My favorite species are the tree kangaroos. We currently have a breeding pair, so that's a male and a female, and we have an older female who's retired from breeding.
It's important to keep in mind that zoos have changed a lot over the years. They're no longer just places for animals to entertain an audience.
One of the most interesting things to me about zoos is that originally zoos were basically created as a form of entertainment, but today zoos are more important as well as far as conservation and education. Both those things are at the forefront of what zoos do. Conservation-wise, zoos contribute to a lot of research. For something like a tree kangaroo, it's very hard to get information on wild animals. They're hard to find, they're hard to catch, and you may only get a few, so you don't have a lot of information to look at what's common. So having animals in zoos that you can work with especially endangered species, is very helpful as far as research goes. And education is also very important because people come to a zoo, they see animals they never knew about, they learn about what those animals need, and it gives them tools that they can use to help conserve wild animals.
And nothing's more exciting than a new baby. Aww.
I have been waiting for 10 years. I'm so excited, and I'm extra excited that we have a wonderful adult female. She's very cooperative. Tree kangaroos tend to be very shy and sometimes can be difficult to get a lot of hands-on interactive work with. So I'm really happy that LaRue is such a good female. She's been letting us document progress. She's been letting us check the baby. And it's been really amazing adventure to watch this baby grow up. It's incredible for me, who I've waited so long, and to get a baby and a baby girl, even better, has been amazing.
Now let's take a look at what the average day in the life of a zookeeper looks like.
So normally in the morning when zookeepers get to work, the first thing we do is check all of our animals, make sure everybody looks okay first thing in the morning. And then we start making breakfast. Depending on the species and what they need, we do try to match nutrition to what they would eat in the wild as well as we can. We have an entire commissary that has all the ingredients you could need to make diets for everybody.
Keepers will also provide medications when necessary, shift animals from their behind-the-scenes areas to the viewing areas, and keep those areas clean. They'll also provide enrichment for the animals. Enrichment is basically anything that keeps the animals stimulated and curious. Keepers might hide food or place different scents around the yard, provide swings, ropes, and other toys, do training sessions with the animals, and so on and so forth. We've already discussed how having a passion for animals is crucial to being a zookeeper, but that's not all there is to it. Mac gives us some additional insights as to some of the other most important characteristics a zookeeper can have.
You start your day, you go off to do your work, and there isn't somebody there reminding you what needs to be done or reminding you when you have to be somewhere else. So you need to have time management skills, you need to have the skills to prioritize, and you have to be able to be very self-sufficient at those things. So those are important. It's also a physical job. So if you don't think you can lift bales of hay, or you don't want to work outside when it's cold or really hot, it's probably not the best choice for you.
Mac brings up some really good points that I never really thought about before. Animals are living things, and they need care 24/7, regardless of any kind of circumstance.
Zookeepers have to work every day. That's something I think a lot of people don't think about. They have to work during the week. They have to work on the weekends when most people are off. A lot of zookeepers have their weekends during the week, and they work holidays. They work all the holidays. They work when there's a pandemic. They work when there's a giant blizzard. They work when it's 102 degrees out.
And also, because animals are living things, you never know how they're going to surprise you. This is clearly a job in which there is never a dull moment. Mac tells us a great story about an animal from Southeast Asia called a binturong.
So one thing that I tell new people, if they haven't worked in a zoo before, is whatever you think an animal can't do, they can do it. So we had a pair of binturong, and they had some little kids. We had a female that somehow had escaped from the binturong yard. She liked to sit up on the roof of their building. So we went up there and put her in a crate, brought her back down, and the next day she was back up on the roof, and we could not figure out how she was doing it. And then eventually I went into the yard and caught her in the act. And she was scaling the front of her building, which was basically a plain wall. She's scaling it like a ninja. And it was hilarious. Oh my goodness.
So, if you're considering becoming a zookeeper, what can you do to start preparing now?
If you're interested in being a zookeeper, as far as in high school, biology classes are going to be something obvious. That's a class that you would think a zookeeper would take. But really any of the sciences, because to get a science degree in college, even if it's a biology or zoology-based degree, you're going to have to take other types of science. And most science is math-based, so you do need to take whatever math classes you can take.
Another class that would be very helpful for a future zookeeper would be a public speaking class. Zookeepers interact with the public a lot, and they're often asked to give presentations to guests. Like most things in today's world, zoos have changed and evolved. One of the biggest changes has been how keepers train and work with the animals. There's been a shift from manual restraint to training the animals for voluntary cooperation.
In today's zoos, there is a lot more training that goes on, so that's something that if you want to become a zookeeper, that's something you should look into the basics of training and practice that. If you have pets at home, that's a nice way to practice that, because now you can train the animals to be a part of their well-being, to be a part of their own care, and that's far more common now than it used to be, which is much better for people and animals.
As we mentioned earlier, zoos play a critical role in helping to save endangered species populations, whether it's by gathering information or through breeding. As we move on to the future, Mac feels that zoos will play an even bigger role in helping to save endangered species and will continue to build upon the successes of reintroducing these animals back into the wild. Now, she's going to give us some great information about career advancement and salary considerations.
One of the things I wish I had known earlier in my career is the limitations as far as what you can do within a zoo. So there are zookeepers, and in most zoos there's levels of zookeepers, and then there's management. But the number of positions gets smaller the higher you go. And no matter how long you stay in the field, you're not going to have lots of opportunities to climb a ladder.
The highest position you can have at a zoo is that of the zoo director. But that's the business side of running a zoo. So you're going to need to take business classes to get that job. They're in charge of raising money, choosing where to spend it, and so on. And now we come back around to a zookeeper's passion, dedication, and love for animals.
Animals are waiting for you. They depend on you. And it's not something that you can skip a day on, obviously. So it takes a lot of dedication. But when it's hard, that's when it helps to know that there's other people doing the same thing you're doing because you have a shared goal.
And that wraps up today's career exploration video. I hope the excellent information that Mac was so gracious as to share with us will allow you to turn your passion into a fabulous career. See you next time.